Every single day I will be fighting for you, and with every breath in my body, I will not rest until we have delivered the strong, safe, and prosperous America that our children deserve and that you deserve.
President-elect Donald Trump vows in an election night address to usher in a golden age of America. The former president declares victory over Vice President Kamala Harris in a closely divided election that will return him to the White House after losing the 2020 race to Joe Biden. Donald Trump's victory brings on many firsts for his presidency. At 78 years of age, Trump is the oldest president ever elected.
He is the first defeated president in 132 years to win another term. Trump is also the first person convicted of a felony to take over the White House. Trump wins the Electoral College, currently holding 295 votes to Harris's 226. Trump also wins the popular vote, a first for a Republican since 2004.
And across the country, a record 84 million Americans voted early in this election.
Vice President Harris delivering her concession speech at her alma mater, Howard University in Washington, D.C. this afternoon.
Earlier in the day, she called President-elect Donald Trump to congratulate him. National correspondent Atra El-Nashar reports from Howard on Harris's message for the nation.
Vice President Harris appearing on the same stage she hoped would be the setting of a historic victory. Instead, with a heavy heart, she thanked the thousands of people in the crowd for placing their trust in her and officially conceded the race.
The outcome of this election is not what we wanted, not what we fought for, not what we voted for. But hear me when I say, the light of America's promise will always burn bright.
Despite the outcome, Harris says she's proud of the race they ran and the way they ran it.
I know folks are feeling and experiencing a range of emotions right now. I get it. But we must accept the results of this election.
Sharing the message she passed on to President-elect Trump.
I told him that we will help him and his team with their transition, and that we will engage in a peaceful transfer of power.
Harris thanked her family, running mate Tim Walz, volunteers who were all there in the audience, as well as President Biden and poll workers across the country. Now, looking toward the future.
While I concede this election, I do not concede the fight that fueled this campaign. And we will continue to wage this fight in the voting booth, in the courts, and in the public square. And we will also wage it in quieter ways, in how we live our lives, by treating one another with kindness and respect.
Vice President Harris also had a specific message for the young people watching. She repeated a quote we've heard throughout this campaign, and that is, when we fight, we win. But this time, she added, sometimes that fight takes some time. At Howard University, I'm Atra El-Nashar.
Senator Bernie Sanders says it's no surprise Democrats lost to Donald Trump again. In a statement today, the independent from Vermont accused the Democratic Party of ignoring the priorities of the working class, citing public frustrations over the economy, health care, and the war in Gaza. Sanders goes on to cast doubt over whether Democratic leaders will learn any lessons from this campaign, which he calls disastrous. The 83-year-old currently caucuses with Democrats. He was up for re-election Tuesday and was able to secure his fourth term in the Senate.
7 battleground states were considered critical throughout this election. Both parties campaigned heavily in those states, including here in Michigan, which was a toss-up and could have gone either way. When it was all said and done, it flipped from blue to red in the presidential race, awarding former President Trump our 15 electoral votes.
The longest time, the Democratic Party has been the party of the working class, the blue-collar worker, the union member, and we're starting to see that shift. I mean, a significant number of folks who fall in that category have gone over to the Republican Party.
Political analyst Paul Rosicki says he believes this election changed the political landscape in Michigan.
The blue wall that people talked about seemed to just crumble by the wayside. So the mere fact that he won was a possibility, but the margin he won by, and particularly the popular vote, was surprising in many ways.
Right now, based on these unofficial results, Donald Trump is leading in the popular vote across the nation. That hasn't happened for a Republican since 2004.
It's very unusual for Republicans to win the popular vote. It's been a very long time.
When it comes to voter turnout, Michigan saw more people participate in this election than in the past. According to the numbers from the New York Times, more than 5.6 million people cast their ballot in this election. In 2020, that number was 5.5 million. But not all counties in Michigan saw more voters in this election.
That was one more surprise I had. For all the energy and excitement and frankly anger over this campaign, I thought there'd be a lot. I thought it'd be either a record or a near record turnout.
As I mentioned, voter turnout in some communities didn't match what we saw in 2020. Take a look at those numbers. Here's Saginaw County turnout in 2020, just over 66%. 4 years later, voter turnout drops to 65%. And in Genesee County, in the 2020 election, the turnout was just over 65%. This year, it dropped to just under 62%.